And here is my lady teaching long-lasting relationships.
First thing I want to do is ask, how many people have been in their relationships for the past 5 years?
One relationship or multiple?
Yes. How many?
I've done 15 years.
For the past, let's say, 7 years. Any?
Gypsy, you're going to get the prize.
Anybody say yes? No? Maybe.
One year.
I think I saw one hand.
Yeah. She doesn't count. She's mine.
Well, that certainly counts, my goodness.
We'll win a prize.
No, I win the damn prize.
Of course, silly me.
Okay. Point taken. Did y'all see how many hands were raised? In this day and age, when I thought about doing this class, the first thing I started talking about was disposable relationships. Because we tend to seem like we have a attitude about relationships that anybody. I wrote a thing on FET last year because I had a beautiful Moroccan cockatoo and the bird died, and my bird had been with me. I had just come back from Black Beach, and I had just taught this exact same class, long-lasting relationships, and I came back to find my bird, who had been with me for well over 20 years, gone. And I wrote about brief and disposable relationships, because sometimes that's the best way to try and get stuff out. And I wrote talking about how in my mother and father's generation, when you said I do and forever, that was truly forever. And you heard about marriages that were 40 years and 50 years and 60 years. And you don't hear those kinds of things anymore. What I started thinking about, how that changed, and what kinds of things are we doing now that we weren't doing then, and vice versa, why relationships don't seem to last as long. And I attributed a lot of this to, I add this to the DNS lifestyle, but if you take it out of that context and just talk about in general, I think it's the same thing. I think the only difference is that we add the kink to it, which, yay for the kink, y'all. But I think a lot of what we need to do holds true regardless. And I think some of those things is about intent and how we go into relationships and what we're thinking when we go into them. And I think a big mistake that a lot of people make is that they go into relationships thinking that this relationship is going to be forever. And we know that there are very few forever relationships. People go into relationships for a lot of different reasons, and all relationships aren't meant to be forever. I know that I have had many submissives and slaves that I knew going into that relationship was only going to be for a certain amount of time. I knew that it was stuff that I needed to teach them. I knew there were things that I needed to learn from them. And once those lessons are learned, that was going to be the end of that relationship. If you kind of have that thought process in mind ahead of time, it makes it so much more easier when that time comes. It's going to be hard because the ending of anything is a death, and death comes with grief, and grieving process is a whole 7-step process. And there's no damn time limit on it. I'm still in it right now. My mom just passed away 3 months ago, or maybe it was 4 months. I don't know.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter because it just still is there.
Yes.
So I say all of that to say that even when you understand that ahead of time that this relationship is for what it is. I have had submissives that, they were 23, 24, 25. Their lives were just beginning. I knew that they were going to meet people, they were going to want to get married, they were going to want to have children. So I am not thinking, oh, this slave is going to be with me forever. I knew, even though in their hearts that's what they wanted, I knew that in reality, that's just not going to be real feasible. So in having that intent of what you want, there's also the situation of how much of this, when you're talking about the DNS part of it, how much of this is for you, and can you commit to? Everybody can't be 24/7. There are a lot of people in here that wear a lot of hats. We are mommies and daddies, and we got school stuff, we got jobs. You're soccer mom Saturday morning and at the dungeon Saturday night. It is what it is. It's life, and if you understand that and know that, then to say that I want to be 24/7 may not be really what you want. So if you know that about yourself, if you know this is all I can commit to, and you start out with those intentions and y'all negotiate that, it changes a whole lot of things. It makes things a whole lot more defined. Because I think people have a tendency to go and to think, this is wonderful, but we don't think things through. We don't think what this relationship is going to be like a year from now. What do I want in this relationship a year from now? I think another big thing is that relationships change because people change, and we're constantly changing and growing and evolving. And so therefore, what I may have wanted for you and wanted of you now may very, very vastly change 5 years from now if we're together that long. Gypsy and I have been together for years.
20.
Almost 20, right?
Almost
20.
20. We're almost 20. That's correct. Gypsy started out as my slave. She is now a wonderful dominant in her own right. But our relationship has changed and changed and changed again, but we are still together. And that is because we had intent. Our intent was that we were going to be together. And when she realized that she had a dominant side of herself, she came to me and she said, ma'am, I really want to try and explore my dominant side. I think that I have another side to me. And I could have tried to squash that, as I've seen a lot of dominants try to do, because they were very comfortable in where they were and very comfortable in having that person doing what they were doing for them. But I encouraged her, and I removed her collar, and I mentored her to be able to achieve what she wanted to. Because ultimately, I feel like my goal as a dominant and my job as a dominant is to make them the best that they can be. And how that manifests itself, I don't know, but I have to be prepared for how it does and be willing, and I'm not always willing, but be willing to do that. But I pray for that. I pray for that willingness, because sometimes I really am not willing. I mean, it was really good having someone, and Gypsy knew me really, really well. So it wasn't an easy thing to say, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. But ultimately, it was a really, really good thing. We got a chance to, and in so doing, it gave our relationship another whole level, because we became friends like I can't explain to anybody. She's one of the few people I'd lay my life down to. Yes.
You're right. We became something completely different. And if Sam needs me to serve, or I still feel I'm her girl for life, I'm her friend for life. I mean, we might just go to the mall and go shopping and call each other up, and she goes, will you come over and do my hair or whatever? And sure, if anything, we don't live together, but we still have this relationship. And it's funny because, yes, I did explore my dominant side, and I have a relationship of my own with a man that I love very much, but it was all based on, did Ma'am approve? I still, I couldn't even consider being with this man if Ma'am didn't adore him, and he adores her, and so they're friends. So the relationship takes on relationship, and now we're sort of both her subs and it's very open. And then so our leather family is really grown, and our relationship has grown, I think, is different, and I could never have foreseen this, but it's wonderful. And we have a level of trust that friends have and girlfriends have, and I still feel like she's my other mommy, even though we're only a few years apart. And and it's funny, as trust grows and friendship grows, and you never foresee these things, but these are things that happen when love is the base, trust is the base, and you have to be open to where these things are going to go.
And they can go a lot of different places. I had a slave that thought he was a slave. He had never served before, and I was his first mistress. And when we got into the relationship, I realized that he was not a slave. He was a dominant masochist. He just didn't know that. His willingness to do for me came from the fact that he was a real masochist, and that was his reward a lot of times. And I don't know why masochists draw to me like a moth to a damn flame. I don't even understand that shit, because I'm so totally the laziest top in the world. But they do. So a lot of it is understanding, and don't be so stuck in your head of what this relationship has to be that you don't give it any chance and any place for it to go. So then when it does not materialize as you think it is, you have no place to go. I had another where a boy came to me and wanted to be a slave. And we were in a relationship less than 3 months. And he realized, ma'am, I am just not a slave. And I said, yep, you're not. And I'm just not the mistress for you. But we had a wonderful, wonderful friendship and relationship. And I said, well, do you want to end this? And he said, no. And I said, well, okay, we're not going to end it. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing and let it figure itself out. And we did that for a while. And he still served me, and we did things. And one day, he was doing something, and I said, you know, you are such a damn brat. I need to just take you and put you across my knee and beat your ass. And he said, yes, Mommy, you do. And it was like, click, the light bulb went on. He was my boy, and I was his mommy. And that's the dynamics. We were together for almost 9 years in that relationship. Because we found out where we fit. Had we stopped at the point that not mistress, not slave, that never would have happened. And it would have been a shame, because it was a wonderful, wonderful relationship. Yes.
So Pam, don't focus on the label, just focus on each other and see what happens. And we keep reevaluating.
Gypsy, scooter.
The keep reevaluating is really, really important.
Like every couple months, sit there and talk and communicate and make sure this is what you want to do, and then
And I have to truthfully say to all of the dominants in the room, the only way that's going to happen is if you all allow the submissives to be able to be honest with you. You know, I mean, the bottom line is, a lot of times, they're going to say stuff that you ain't going to want to hear. Trust me, I don't want to hear a lot of times when they come to me. But I have to allow them to do that, and we have our rules of how that happens. You know, we have the time out so you can talk freely, so you ain't being out of order, because, you know, if you jump up in my face, there's going to be some trouble up in this place. And they all know that. But I give them that freedom to be able to say those things. And say those things how they feel. If they can't say it, they can write it in their journal, because their journal is their safe place. And it was really funny because my girl Kat and I were talking the other day, and she was talking about writing in the journal, and she said, I was so afraid to put that in the journal. And I said, why? And she said, because I thought that you was going to punish me for putting that in. And I said, I told you from the beginning, your journal is your safe place. She says, but I've been told that before, and then I've written in my journal, and then I've been punished for what was put in the journal, because they read it. It's so vastly different than maybe how I meant it. Because I can walk up to you and say, hello, sir. Hello.
Hi there, girl.
And what do? You say hi, because you feel like, or I can walk up and say hello. Now that second hello was like, I could have said like, hello, fuck you, right? And back at you. Exactly.
You're in the wrong room.
But all of that being said and done, if I type that, which hello do y'all know I'm talking about? First one or second one?
And it depends on how I feel.
You can't read body language, facial expression, or
You miss all of
inflection.
that. You miss all of that.
And 90% of the message is in
that. Exactly. Because you can tell when someone walks up to you and say hello, that is friendly and I want. And you can tell when somebody walks up and say hello, like I'm speaking to you because I have to speak to you, but you know, you're in my way. But if I didn't have to speak to you, I wouldn't have said a damn thing. You can tell, and you tell why. Not by the word, you tell by the all of that. You know, inflection, what your face is saying, because you know, hello with a smile is very different than hello. Big damn difference. So we have all of that, and because of that, we lose a lot of that. We're doing more and more of communicating via all of these other means, and so we lose a lot in the translation. And so people think that there they're misunderstanding what's being said because they don't have the opportunity to understand the meaning behind those words. So I definitely say to you that when it comes to having a conversation, especially if it's about something that you feel is important, don't text it. Please don't send an email. If you are so far that you can't actually meet in person, at least go by a phone call. That at least you can at least hear the inflection in their voice and have that back-to-back, one-on-one conversation. It makes all the difference. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. On the subject of allowing the relationship freedom to change and evolve, do you have any tools that you found useful in discerning the difference between the need for a change and just normal obstacles? Because if we're doing our job right, our partner is going to come to us and say, I don't know if this is for me, I don't think I can do this. And we encourage them to succeed through that. And sometimes, I mean, their perception is that they can't do it, and we know better, but sometimes we may or may not be being a little hard-headed about that. Do you know any things to watch for to discern between the two?
Well, see, to me, that we're talking about two kind of different things. when I'm talking about a change in the relationship dynamics, okay, that's different than I'm pushing her to do better in the relationship that we are presently in. I think my job is to observe them, observe those weaknesses, observe the things that I feel that they really have strength in, but they don't have the confidence to know that they can really do this, and then make them do those things so that they can say, wow, yeah, Luna, I'm talking to you. Yes.
One of the things that you did with me many times, and is push me outside my comfort level. And I'm a creature of habit.
Hey.
And many times I've cussed ma'am out in my head, never to her face, or apart when I was away, and said, "Ooh, I don't know why, but I hate you." I've said, and when a good dom encourages you to see, they may be the voice of reason for you. And a good dom to me, as a sub, is someone who rules with wisdom and not fear and emotional blackmail, which those were harsh words, but it does happen. And when you rule with kindness and wisdom and understand that you don't know everything, it makes the sub feel so much better, and building their self-confidence to come forward and be honest with you. And honesty is something ma'am totally appreciates. And many times she said, I didn't realize, like you were talking about, I didn't realize you felt that way. I didn't know you were perceiving something this way, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. And then we talk it out. So that's really important. Also.
Very important. Very important. Yes, ma'am.
Sarah and I call him the sky blue, but to him, and to me, I'm like, Sir knows that I love him. But if you don't say it every day, you don't say things, and I'm like, I appreciate you, or I'm thankful, it's kind of like one of those things where it's out of sight, out of mind. And so Sir would tell me something, well, yeah, of course, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I didn't know that, Sir. He's like, oh. And I'm like, thank you for telling me the sky was blue, because you could think automatically, yes, the sky's blue. They know this, that I feel this way about them. They know that I want this for them. They know that they can trust me, and they can be honest, they can be open. But with thinking subjectively and only in my mind, I would forget that Sir wants me to be honest with him. Sir wants me to trust him. Sir is not going to rule me with fear. He's only pushing me to help me be my best. And he'd have to tell me the sky was blue and just say, hey, this is the reason I'm doing this. Because I would forget, and I'd just be like, well, Sir's doing this to be mean to me. He's trying to make me do something I can't do. But he knew that I could do it. So he had to kind of tell me the sky's blue.
And sometimes I'm going to tell you that the sky's blue, but if I tell you when we walk outside and you look up and you see the sky's blue, it kind of defeats the fucking purpose of you trusting me to begin with. Let me tell you that the sky is blue while we sitting in here and you can't see the damn sky, and you trust me that the sky is blue. And then when we walk outside, you're like, wow, it really is blue.
The sky is falling.
Wow. Sometimes it's about the lesson that I'm trying to teach you. And the lesson that I'm trying to teach you might be trust.
Yes, definitely.
If you have to see it all the time, if I have to show it to you for you to believe it, then there's no faith.
You're saying the words out of his mouth.
I know it.
Where do you think I got it
Where
from?
do you think he got it from?
You live long
Didn't he
enough to
tell
learn
you
stuff.
some wise person said it? In any case, I say that to say those things are really important. As far as relationships being and growing, being able to evolve and all of that kind of stuff, when you allow for that, then it may change. The slave that I found out and realized was a dominant masochist became a dominant and got his own submissive. And in so doing, that changed the whole dynamic of our relationship. But it was wonderful because then we didn't have to play the power, who has the power, because he damn sure didn't. And we was doing that because he was dominant. And he didn't know that he was dominant. So we didn't have to have that power struggle all the time, So you learn things, because this lifestyle is about self-exploration. It's about learning about yourself and learning about others. And I think that it's really important when you go into that relationship and you thinking that and realizing, you know, what this relationship is for me, what it is to me, being honest about it. Yes.
Have you ever had a moment where you performed and you had to go to your relationships and tell them, I'm doing something different now, or I want to do something different now, so our relationships might change? And
Yes.
I assume that's probably yes, but
it's a very difficult thing. And actually, if you're a dominant, that's not as difficult as when your slave can outgrow you. Because there's some places that you may not want to go, but they want to go. And you can tell it's so embedded in them that this is something that I really want. And those are when you have to sit down and make some really hard decisions. Do I release them, allow them to do that? Or is there a way that we can maintain this relationship and I still be able to give them what they need? But yes, very much so, very, very, very much so, there's times where you're evolving. I think I've just reached another pinnacle in my life, and I've just recognized this since my mom's death. And I've been fighting it, tooth and nail. I just, you know, when I say about the being willing, there's days where I'm willing, and there's more days right now that I'm not. You know, so I'm still working on trying to, because I have to know what I want and where I'm going to go in that next pinnacle, because I've got to take them with me. So, you know, if you don't know where you're going, and I tell everybody, the head, y'all, our jobs is so important. Because when we don't know what we're doing and what we want, you can't lead. You can't lead. You know, they're going to follow, and they're only going to do, and it's really hard when you're not consistent. You know, today I want this, tomorrow I want this, tomorrow I want this, and tomorrow I want this. And there's no consistency, so they feel like, well, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. It doesn't matter, because I can't never do it. Yes.
Were you proud of your slave when he decided, hey, I'm about it?
He didn't make that decision. He didn't make that.
You're just like-
No, well, he didn't make that thing. I did. I knew what he was. He did not know. He was too new to know what he. And that's the problem a lot of times. We have so many new people that are coming into this lifestyle, and they're so new. They don't really know who they are. They haven't been involved enough to know. He knew he loved being flogged. He knew he loved all of those things that we, quote, say is submissive. By the way, that's another whole topic in and of itself of you know, us coding that because somebody wants to be flogged, that means that they got to be a submissive. That's the biggest bunch of bullshit ever. But in this thing, in his head, because that's what he thought, he felt that, well, I must be submissive. So I'm the one who enlightened him and said, baby, you're really not, you know, not at all. So, and then we talked about how that is. Yes?
You're talking, I have a very vanilla married relationship, and I've had that relationship. When you asked about relationships and length of time, I thought you meant in the lifestyle. I've been with him for 12 years. And he and I have had a lot of involvement in a vanilla sense, as well as me letting go of baggage and becoming poly because I got interested in this lifestyle. And he's like, I'm a butter pecan, I'm mostly vanilla with enough nuts to be interesting, but where you're wanting to go, I have no interest. And my mentor basically dropped out of the lifestyle, so I'm like, I have lots of questions because I have other people interested in other things. How does your vanilla life affect your DS life or this lifestyle, or is it to you the one and the same? Because I'm having a hard time on those kind of lines, figuring out, okay, I'm this way with this person, I'm this way with this person, but this person over here is kind of a mix of the two, but doesn't want a lot of either one, but I'm feeling like I have to take charge of it all.
I can tell you about my experience. I was a mother raising 2 children, a single mom, and when I started running PEP, for those of you who know, I ran People Exchanging Power here in Atlanta for over 13 years, which is now where 1763 is. But I was raising children, so I had my regular life, and then I had my thing, and I kept them very separate. To the degree that that's kind of how Lady D came into being, is that I needed a name that was not my regular Deborah name, because in my head it was going like that too. And so I wanted something else. And so there's some submissives that got together, and we were throwing around names one day, and they said, Lady D, because you're always a lady. And it resonated, and so that's how I got my name. But I did that for a lot of years. However, what I found is that they started very much overlapping. And you can very well separate it depending on how much of this lifestyle it is for you. For me, I became very immersed in this lifestyle. And it wasn't something that I just wanted to do on a weekend or every, few days. It was something that I was doing constantly. And so they started immersing into one another. And that's when I had to sit down and be honest. And at that point in time, my ex-husband came back into my life for a while, and I had to tell him the same thing, that this is who I am and this is what I do now. And, if you're going to be a part of my life, you're going to have to be okay with that. And he didn't know how to be okay with that. And that was okay, because it's better to know. You know what I'm saying? You can't, you're either going to change who you are for that person, which means you're not living your authentic self. And I can tell you, anybody in here who doesn't live their authentic self, you get to a point where you're just so miserable. It's just so not worth it. So when you get to that point, you just kind of know where to be. I think that don't overthink it. Just be in the moment. When you are with the people, be with the people. When you are with the hubby, be with the hubby, and don't overthink it, because that's what people do. While they're here with hubby, they're thinking about the other person that they're getting ready to stay here with him. Because then you're giving him the best of you right now. So when you do go, he's good. And then when you're with them and you're giving them the best of you, they're good. You know what I'm saying? You're over way too much thinking. Stop thinking, girl. What does Mikey say? Just do it. Yes.
Compartmentalizing, I think I said that right. It works for me because I have, like ma'am says, many hats, many things. And the man in my life, the man I live with and I'm married to, and he's vanilla. He comes from the vanilla world. He's vanilla, but he understands the lifestyle. He doesn't really see the need to be part of it, but I was blessed. I found a relationship, and my last relationship too.
Yep.
Not
because they knew about me.
They
I ain't
knew
going
about
nowhere. So the first thing they do is like, she's here.
And but if you're already in a relationship and you're finding yourself, I find it easier, maybe because I'm a Gemini, I don't know. I compartmentalize, and as ma'am says, when you're with one person and micromanaging and overthinking and being over controlling, and I don't know you, but I'm I read cards, I read tarot. But to me, I'm guessing you're a highly intelligent person, and the overthinking really is almost a pitfall, you know? And what happens is you're trying to play a chess game in your head, and you can't do it. Go to checkers, it's easier, and you don't play chess, because the moves, there's too many moves. And you can be with a vanilla person. Now, keeping secrets is a whole nother discussion, but compartmentalizing it, for me, makes it very easy. And as ma'am says, in the moment.
In the moment. In the moment.
It helps.
Because we don't live inside.
Don't go over
we're
there.
in these bodies, but we don't stay here. We are, and I have to tell you, that's why you really love when you play, because play is the only time that you are right there in the moment. You ain't thinking about the job. You ain't thinking about the story you got to write later on. You are right there in your body, what's going on right at this moment. And I try to take that out of the placing, and I try to do that more, because it really is a wonderful tool if you stay right where you are. Are there any other questions? You got one?
I recently had a lot of anxiety and stress, and a lot of it was centered around the fact that I was focusing on what was in the future and what was in the past. And future is anxiety, and stress is past and kind of thinking it's going to happen in the future. And when you're not focused on the now, everything is kind of negative in a way. You can think optimistically about the future, but it's so much more to think. It's so much easier for me to think optimistically about the now, and find all the positive that's happening right here now. Because if I start trying to think about what's going to happen in the future, I don't know. I can't predict that. And as a control person, sometimes that's really difficult, because you have to let go of what's going to happen in the future. But what's happening the now, if I'm just fluid and I stay in it, I'm happier than I ever can be. It's when I try to think about the future or the past.
Well, and the thing about that future thing is when you, in your head, Gypsy has this saying about, ma'am, I build a whole castle in the sky, and I expect you to live in it, and then when you don't come, I'm devastated. Yeah. Because ultimately, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. She doesn't have control over how I'm going to respond. So if you aren't having this whole thing and just going with where we are right now, you're okay. Don't build that castle and expect that I'm going to live in it, because that's not your decision to make, that's mine. But you've already put yourself in that place. So now you're devastated, and I'm sitting up here trying to console you when, why'd you build it? And don't tell me if we build it, they will come. That's only for you subs. That is not for us. We decide whether we're going to come or not.
Literally.
Okay. So that's my spiel on long-lasting relationships. If you get a chance, I'm Lady V Pep on FET. Please go and read my writing on, I wrote a thing on grief and disposable relationships, and it talked about my bird that I lost. But in that I really talked about, because he was with me for over 20 years. That's a pretty long, damn lasting relationship. And what I talked about was how my bird was very unhappy. When I moved out of the Pep house, now understand, 1763 is 10,000 fucking square feet. My house is maybe about 1,400. So I felt like I moved into a closet, okay? And my bird, which had a whole room all to himself, now was stuck in a little corner. And it was in the front of the house. I worked from home, but I worked all the way in the back of the house. And so he was lonely. I got a chance to run up, ha, and then I'd be back in the back again. So he was very unhappy. I was unhappy that I couldn't be with him. And I spent a whole lot of money that I didn't have to redo my office so that my bird could be in my office with me. And I had to think about that, because when you care about the relationship that you're in and when you really are trying to work through things, you go and you do things that you might not ordinarily want to do, but it's because of your love for this person that you feel like, okay, you know, I want to help and have that happen. Boy, everybody in here is so relating to some shit I'm saying. And so that's what I did with him. And then he came and he was ecstatically happy because all day long, you know, he was there, and I'm talking to customers on the phone, so I had to actually teach him that, okay, when I'm talking, you can't talk. You know, but it was wonderful, and it was just interesting that even with an animal, how my relationship grew and expanded just because of something that simple. So, you know, keep that in mind. Thank you all very much. I just want to make one last announcement.
To order a copy of this video or to book Lady D, contact us at loveenterprises@gmail.com.